So Final Fantasy 5. Who may or may not know, I have recently taken it upon myself to beat every single Final Fantasy game that has ever come out. I consider myself to be a huge Final Fantasy fan, yet I have only ever fully beaten 2 games. Bruh. If you want a little bit more context and see how I am getting the ultimate Final Fantasy experience, click on the video that is popping up here, and I'll also be sure to link it at the end of the video. So back to where we were. Final Fantasy 5. Okay, hold up. Before I move on any further, what the heck is going on with the little character icons in this game? You know, the little character portraits? I can understand this. I can also understand this. Where I start to lose it a little bit is this. And then, what is this? And these are just the main characters. Don't even get me started on what this is. NANI? Not to say that the older ones look absolutely amazing or so much better, but again, what is this? No. Okay, so now we got that out of the way. What is it like to play Final Fantasy V in 2021? This game came out in 1992, so it's been 29 years since this game came out, and we're here to talk about it. So I will say this right now, this game came out almost 30 years ago. There's gonna be spoilers in this video, just because I really want to be able to fully talk about it. And at this point, you're looking up this video because you either want to play it, or you already have played it. Now, you may or may not be playing this game 100% just for the story, and on the off chance that you are, I have warned you, there will be some spoilers in this video. Now let's get into it. Let's start off with the visual. Let me just get this out of the way, because some people might not like this, but whatever. The best way to play this game was on the GBA, right? Do your research. This game's been released a couple of times, but the best way to do it is by playing it on the Game Boy Advance. Now, I tried ordering a copy of this game along with Final Fantasy VI because while they do have newer releases, these releases are either on the phone or on Steam. Now, I'm not really a fan of playing a game on my phone. So like I said, I tried ordering Final Fantasy V and 6, but the problem is they weren't gonna come in until like 2 months from now. So I said, screw it. I want to play these games. And honestly, the art style for the newest version of these games, I don't know, people say they don't like it. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. While I do adore the 32-bit games, and as some say they do have this classic feel to them that is timeless, I was excited to play these games with the nicest looking sprites possible. So anyway, in terms of visuals, this game looked really good because for this game specifically, I ended up playing it on the phone. I'm just trying to get over myself and say, okay, come on. The game is the game. I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna love it no matter what, whether I play it on my phone or not. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. The story. Now, this is 100% why I wanted to play this game. The reason why I'm going back and playing all these games, I want to be able to get to know each game. Now, I'm not saying I become a master at it. I want to be able to point towards a Final Fantasy game and say, yes, I've played it, I get it, I know the main characters, and this is kind of what it's about. Now, in terms of story, this story is cool. It's cute. It's funny. It's quirky. Compared to some other Final Fantasy games who are very serious and very like, with a little bit of quirkiness and a little bit of silliness. This one is mostly quirkiness and silliness with a little bit, I guess, of seriousness, you could say. Remember how I mentioned the spoilers? Well, we're about to get into them. So let's start off with the main character. Bartz is one of the main reasons why I wanted to play this game.
Hello, Editor Noah here. Just wanted to say, did you know that Bartz was actually translated to Butts? B-U-T-Z. For the first time it was translated. Yeah. Butts. A booty!
I played games like Dissida when I was growing up, so I had an idea of what Bartz looked like, but I didn't know his story. I think he's great. He's very free-spirited. He's an adventurer. You know, you have your really cool guys like Squall and Cloud, and then you have your like more like harder characters like Titus, Zidane, and you know, Bartz.
And before the crazy hardcore Final Fantasy fans start coming at me saying, it's Zidane, it's Titus, you know what? No.
Now, while he fits the stereotypical, you know, cheery adventurer, I really still enjoyed him as a character. And then we have Galuf. I love Galuf. He was one of my favorite characters in this game. He's a nice old man who has amnesia, which is kind of funny. You can see that he clearly cares for the group, so I like that. Okay, here comes the first spoiler. And then when you find out that he's actually from a different timeline that tried defeating the big bad boss that y'all are trying to stop right now, and that he's actually a king, and part of this just super cool squad of warriors who tried fighting this guy in the past. Like, here's this cool little old man just taking care of people with amnesia, and he's actually a freaking king. And this actually leads me to the next character, Krill. So now, while I did not spend as much time with Krill, I still liked her as a character. I like how they tied her in, because you know, with the whole thing happening with Galuf freaking dying, I was so curious because I knew I was gonna have one more character coming in. Then I also didn't think this was gonna be the kind of game where I was gonna be switching in and out of characters. I liked it. I low-key called how they were gonna go about it, but it was still cool, you know, having him, you know, die and having his powers transferred down to her. Some people might have seen it as like a cop-out kind of thing to do, and even though again I kind of saw it coming, I liked it. It worked for me because it hit just enough to the point where I was like, my boy got a zoink. But it wasn't too bad because I didn't end up losing all of my experience that I had with him because, you know, it got passed down to this other character. It was a good way to kill off a cool character and also feel like you didn't lose too much in the process. Ferris, another one of my favorite characters in this game, starts off as this cool, you know, macho captain of pirates, got his whole gang and everything. And then you find out that he is actually a she. And this was also something that I kind of found kind of weird, but the game got me. I just kind of ran with it. Because when I first saw Ferris, I was like, oh, so this is a guy. Why is it that his sprite looks so girly? And then it gets explained that, you know, he's a girl, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's actually really cool. I really like the way that Ferris talked, you know, all piratey and stuff, matey. Definitely, I would have to say one of the most memorable characters for me. And now we're gonna talk about the last character. Okay, now here's the thing. It's not like I dislike Lena, I just found her to be a little bit too basic for me. I don't know, it was just something about, like, you know, she's like the classic good princess. She's really sweet, she's really kind. But I don't know, I feel like it just wasn't much more to her. There wasn't anything that made her really unique. Krill had that cool connection to Galuf, and Galuf, I explained like how he was unique. Ferris also has rather a different story. And again, while Bartz can be a little bit more mainstream, I can't explain it. I just liked him a little bit more. I don't know if it was because he was kind of like the main character and the person I started off with. Lena was just a little bit too basic. I'm sorry if y'all don't like me saying that. It's just how I felt. Let's talk a little bit about the freaking villain in this game, XD. First of all, I will say his armor looks dope. I actually like that in this game, you know, while yes, he's serious, like they made him a lot more funny and quirky-ish. What I mean by this is not that he tries to act funny, but they made him so villainy that it was just comical. And can we just talk about the fact when he turned into a splinter? Like, what? But I like that. Again, I like that about this game. And I think that's the best way to kind of end this segment in terms of like story and characters. Well, I don't think that there's anything super crazy about the story that's gonna have you be like, it was enough for me to think that was a cool, cute story. It wasn't meant to be super serious, but it was still an enjoyable experience. Oh, wait, really quick. One more thing to add about Bartz. Something that I was always a little bit confused about was his little icon had white hair, but then his sprite had brown hair. And then from when I remembered him in Dissida, he had brown hair as well. So I was like, why is it that his icon has white hair? One of the original concept arts of Bartz was him with white hair. As to why they decided to include that icon in part of the whole game without adding any kind of context to it, don't really get that part, but yeah, figured I'd just let y'all know.
Also, Ferris and Lena have different color hair too. Their sprites do, at least.
Wow. We're gonna get into a part that's a little bit controversial, but I'm still gonna say my say. The gameplay. So the gameplay is why so many people revere this game to be one of the most amazing Final Fantasy games ever. Super customizable, you know, rather than starting off with your basic group and cast of characters where they each kind of have their own role and you can level them up individually, and that's what makes everyone else so special and unique. They all have their own role that they play in the game. And this one is kind of cool because you get to decide who you want to be what. You want to have 4 monks? Go ahead and have 4 monks. You want to have 4 healers? I don't know why you do that, but go ahead and have 4 healers in one party. And I understand that, and that is super cool. And at first I remember being super excited as I was like unlocking all these different classes and being like, wow, I have so many options. What am I gonna do? And this is the part where people might not like what I'm gonna say. It takes way too long to level up these classes. And yes, maybe you can level them up to a point where like, okay, I don't need to master it, but I've unlocked some cool abilities. It still took age, and especially coming from someone who really likes feeling that aspect of progression. So I can be like, okay, boom, I mastered this, now let's move on to the next one. I felt like I just had to keep them within that same class for way too long. And while I was excited that I was getting all these different classes, I almost felt like, well, what's the point if I haven't still finished the classes that they currently have? And then by the time that I actually ended up starting to master 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of these classes, I had gotten to the point where I already had basically all of the jobs, and it's like, well shoot, now what do I choose? And at some point I thought, okay, wait, maybe this isn't the way that the game is meant to be played. I'm supposed to kind of bounce around, have them learn a couple of skills from each class, and then just experiment and mix and match. This leads me to the second thing. There only being 1 slot. You have your job class, and then you have the ability that comes with that job class, and then you just have 1 blank slot that you can fill in with 1 ability out of the thousands of abilities that you've learned from all the different classes that you've been using with that character. I love getting all these different abilities, but the fact that I can only put 1 on at a time, a little bit of a turn off for me. Because while yes, every time I learned a new ability, I was pretty excited. I was just like, well, is it better than the one that I have? And if it didn't, it kind of just rendered it completely useless. Or certain other abilities like plus 10% health and stuff like that. While in other games, as like a nice little support thing, to be like, okay, cool, now I'm gonna have more health. In this game, I was like, well, why would I, you know, Why would I choose plus 10% health over magic or summon or something? Which is the other thing. To get cool magic, it's all dependent on where you buy it from different stores, and that goes based off of the story progression. It made for me leveling up a little bit useless at times. While the way that most games are set up is if you level up, you know, you unlock new moves and new stuff. In this game, because of the classes, they made the whole leveling up thing kind of really unexciting. Because even though at first it was cool to see my stats go up, then I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna learn any new moves from it. So yeah, I leveled up, my numbers went up, that's cool. So I became really reliant on getting excited on leveling up my classes. But once again, these classes took so long to level up. Getting only 1 AB when it takes like 400 to 500 for some of these classes to fully master them was just way too much. And I'm all about the grind, but goodness gracious. But going back to what I was saying about the magic, even if I did happen to level up my magic skill and I was, you know, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I leveled up my magic skill and I can learn new spells. That was the thing. I could learn new spells, but I didn't learn it right then and there, and it wasn't that cool, exciting thing, because I was like, oh, now when I get to the next town, I might be able to buy some new spell. And then I ended up getting to the next town and finding out that I either already bought them or that, you know, it was just, I still had like a long ways to go before I got the next level of cool spells. And again, a lot of these jobs seem really cool to explore and to try to get into. Like the Dragoon class. Really cool looking class, but after I looked it up, really the abilities that they learn aren't that good. Compared to some other classes, this is not one of the classes that I guess you'd really want to have. So again, it got me thinking, like, yes, while all these different classes are really cool, after doing my research, these are some of the best ones. I don't really know if I want to quote unquote waste my time leveling up another job if I could have this one, which is the best. Again, it just made this whole idea of having all these different classes, while it was really cool and exciting, it kind of killed it when I found out like, well, these are the best. And again, maybe if they would have had it set up so that I leveled them up faster and mastered them quicker, then I'd be like, okay, sure, like, let's experiment. Let's just get this up to a certain kind of level and just at least have that little completionist aspect where I'm like, cha-ching, okay, job mastered. But I didn't really want to do that because I knew how long it took. That honest, I just preferred to stick with the ones that I knew were good because I was like, it's gonna take me a long time to level them up anyways. I don't really want to quote unquote waste my time. Freaking. Which leads me to another thing about the whole gameplay aspect. Exploring and not knowing where to go. I don't like feeling like I'm wasting my time. And while at first it was kind of cool to explore the whole map and to go and search every single nook and cranny of every single new town that I got to and talk to everyone, especially near the end of the game when I remember there was a point, I don't even remember what it was exactly. They said, just go to this location and that's the next person that you have to talk to. I ended up getting to the location and all of a sudden it was like, oh, this person is just not here. And then that was it. And I was like, do you really expect me to go and just fly throughout the entire map to look up where's the next place to go? Now I will say, I don't want to give this game too much crap because I know to an extent, especially back in those times, that was the point of these games. They did these things on purpose to push you to explore and to really get lost in this huge, massive world. And I do appreciate that. But I guess just in this day and age, with that, this is when this review is happening in 2021, it wasn't my favorite thing about the game. I found myself constantly having to look up guides on YouTube to be like, okay, where do I go next? And honestly, that really just kind of took me out of the game. I'd be really into it and I'd be like, oh, now I have to stop, look up a video and like try and like, ugh. And also to comment on the whole job system and how long it takes for things to level up. I don't want to give it too much crap either because again, I know that back in the day, they didn't even know how much grinding was too much grinding. One last little rant about the jobs. It was a little bit sad and disappointing that some of the most amazing jobs in this game required me to essentially have a guide. The Blue Mage, which is one of the coolest classes in the game, I would have had to have a guide with me 24/7 looking at every single enemy, and then not even just that, somehow linking it up to the Beastmaster to have these enemies like trigger and do things, and I would have to backtrack and I would have to like do all these little bits. I just would have taken a lot of planning for me to really get the most out of that class. So honestly, when I looked into it, it was like, this is a huge turnoff. But like even the Bard having to find certain songs, again, unless you're literally exploring every single nook and cranny of this game, you probably want some sort of guide to not just quote unquote waste your time and go and find exactly where these songs are. For a while, I even had all my characters be Blue Mages. I had them all learn the learn ability, and then I changed them all back to the regular classes, and I had every single one of them with the learn ability, and I was like, okay, like this is really cool. Now at this point I've covered all my bases. Odds are I will probably get a lot of blue spells, but then I didn't really get all of them because it all still comes down to luck as to whether or not the enemy's gonna use a spell. And then again, there's certain spells that you have to specifically trigger while having a Beastmaster with. And then I thought, again, I'm wasting one of the slots that I could be using to have more fun and experiment with these different classes because I just had the learn ability when I could have some other cool ability. I loved the idea of the Freelancer and the Mimic. The fact that you're supposed to like master all these different jobs, and then the Freelancer / Mimic, although it starts off as like a really crappy job, it ends up being one of the best ones because it has all the stat boost and you can just literally all the abilities, and you have 2 slots and all these different things. The one thing that killed it for me was the fact that it took way too long to master each class. Now overall, all in all, I did enjoy this game. I'm extremely happy that I can say I beat Final Fantasy V. I know the story now, and I get what made it a big deal at the time. And again, even now I can look back, and even though I didn't have the best experience with it, I can appreciate it as a Final Fantasy game. I also really kind of want to go back to it. I feel like with going into it with these things in mind, be able to have a better experience. So I don't want people to think I didn't like it, just not my favorite Final Fantasy game, but I still enjoyed my playthrough. I do want to talk about the music. The music was absolutely beautiful. And that's something that most of these Final Fantasy games just always just kill it for me. I love the music. And this game is no exception. I really love the music throughout this game. Oh, and stay tuned, because after this review, we're going to do a quick little unboxing. Not just any kind of unboxing. A sword unboxing. Yeah, boy. As I said in my other video too, as I am beating each Final Fantasy game, I am also playing through that main character storyline in Dissidia. I finished Bart's story, and I will say, after having beaten this game, playing Dissidia, playing through Bart's story, it made it a little bit more special because now I knew where he came from, and it was cool getting to see the way that he talks, rather than just picturing in my head, seeing him actually talk. It was also kind of cool to see how they implemented the whole mimic mechanic, looking at the different moves and the little references to how those moves might look in this fighting game compared to, you know, in the original game. It was different with Bart's because there wasn't really moves per se. At least not any unique moves to him from his game. What was special about Bart's is because he's known as the Mimic, that being one of the last job classes that you get in the game, he got to use an assortment of moves from all the characters in Dissidia. And I just thought that was a really cool way to implement him. Plus, when he goes beast mode into his EX mode, getting to see all the different swords from all the different characters and him wielding them was really, really cool. Getting to see X Death in Dissidia was also pretty cool. Although they made him less quirky and more serious, was still pretty cool. Another little fun fact. But okay, everyone, so now let's get over onto my little trophy for beating this game. So again, if you have yet to watch my video of me talking about the ultimate Final Fantasy experience and what I'm doing with these, every time I beat one of these games, I'm going to unbox a little collectible that I got to represent that I beat the game. So I'm gonna be 100% honest with y'all, the first time that I recorded this review, audio, I forgot to turn on my mic, so the video had no audio. So I have opened this already, but you have no fear. It still has a little bit of tape, the same tape. I just put on some more. So we're gonna go ahead and cut it with our sword, and then check out the cool little figurine that I got to represent Bart's. You're gonna open your sword, because we don't do no regular unboxings up in this. Now this should be pretty easy. Don't want to jinx it. It just has a little bit of tape right there. You can go. Oh, there we go. You know, I still get a little bit nervous when doing that. Don't want to have to, don't want to cut myself or anything.
What?
Ah, yes. Okay. So let me show off this little figurine we got. So here we have him, folks. Bart's in his full glory. Now, I will say, this is actually the Bart's that is represented in Final Fantasy Dissidia. I really like the outfit that they gave him in Dissidia. His regular outfit from the original game is a little bit too basic. Here he has a cape, and he's got some really cool armor, and he just has a bunch of stuff, a lot more detail, to make him look a little bit more detailed and fit in with the rest of the Final Fantasy squad. But I think that he looks absolutely dope, and again, this is something that I will cherish, and I am glad to be able to say that I officially beat Final Fantasy 5. Bart's is dope, and I love Final Fantasy. Alright, everyone, so thank y'all so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please comment down below, tell me what you think about Final Fantasy, what you think about what I said today. And yeah, hopefully I had a good time. I know I really did enjoy this game. Don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment, drop a follow, whatever kind of social media platform you may be watching this on. Do not hit that subscribe button if you are watching this on YouTube to join one of the most amazing YouTube families out here. Welcome to the pack, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.